Amen. When you go to Matthew 24 verse 29 to 30, you see that there's a structure that begins in 1798 with the sign in the sun, moon and stars. We know it's a clustering of events, and these events take you to the end of the world, or the second coming, or Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven. We've seen that we can't line the cloud in verse 30 with Daniel chapter 7 verse 13, which is 1844. It'd be incorrect to do that. So we're making the assertion that October 22nd, 1844, which is a shut door, is not lining up with Matthew 24 verse 30. And that's what's shown on the board up here. So I've made this the suggestion that it's a later date in Millerite history. Now, there are a number of ways to argue that, but I think everyone knows that the Millerites were meant to be the final generation. So I just want to read a short statement to that effect. Don't turn to this one. This is early writing 74. We've read this before, you're all familiar with it, but I just want to refresh our minds on this. September 23rd. This is early writing 74. What year is that? That's 1850. Actually, because you're going to be looking for it, if you're searching, go for 18 MR 10.1. So 18 MR page 10. 18 MR page 10. That's where we're going to read. But I want to just read a familiar passage. So 18 MR is what we're going to go to. September 23rd, 1850. I'm reading early writing 74. 18 MR, page 10. The Lord showed me that he had stretched out his hand the second time to recover the remnant of his people. See page 86. And that efforts must be redoubled in this gathering time. In the scattering, Israel was smitten and torn, but now in the gathering time, God will heal and bind up his people. In the scattering, efforts made to spread the truth had but little effect, accomplished but little, or nothing. But in the gathering, when God had set his hand to gather his people, efforts to spread the truth will have their designed effect. All should be united and zealous in the work. I saw that it was wrong for any to refer to the scattering for examples to govern us now in the gathering. For if God should do no more for us now than he did then, Israel would never be gathered. And often we just pay lip service to this passage, but there's a lot of things that we could really think about. All I want us to think is one small portion when she says, efforts to spread the truth will have their designed effect. Why is that important? It's not even a sentence, that phrase, in relationship to what we're looking at, what we've been studying for the last few days. So I'm going to read it again. Efforts to spread the truth will have their designed effect. Why is that pertinent to what we've been studying? My brother?
I think what we have been studying is that the message, the set angel message was to be published the message to publish the set angel beginning in 1848. So now in 1850 the message was to be given to the world. I think that is what he's saying.
My brother? No? Did you understand what he said?
Yeah.
So you don't even agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, so you have an opinion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with him that the public Bible is represented by the 1850 church, and that angel was now the second gathering. Before 1844, God had first stretched his hand to gather them, but not all were gathered. So he's going to stretch his hand again to gather them again back.
How do you know it's 1844 was that first stretching?
From 1798, he had given them the first angel to gather them.
Okay, so you're just using that logic and lines, okay? I think most of us agree with that. We use a logic to say 1798 to 1804 is the first gathering, and now there's a second gathering, okay? So, efforts to spread the truth. What are the efforts? What efforts are they making to spread the truth? Or should they be making? Sorry? Publishing. She has a vision about this in 48, as my brother said. Have they been doing that work properly? They haven't. We read a statement about that. Rhodes and Case are distracting the people. They should be focused on publishing, but they haven't. Then she has the vision about producing this second chart, and the second chart, I'm suggesting, is going to be the ensign that gets lifted up to draw the people to them. I'm not dismissing the fact that there's going to be a human ensign that's lifted up, but I'm just going to use that as that concept. Do you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that when you look at that passage, it says efforts made to spread the truth. The truth is the truth of the third angel, and that is in 1850. We'll have 1850. They will have the design defect in that history, and how they want to spread the truth is through the publishing.
So we want to remember it's the third angel's message. If they had done their work properly, if they had made efforts to spread the truth, will have the design defect. When it says their design defect, who's doing the designing, Brother William?
Who is doing the designing? I think this is this God.
Okay, so this is God. So if you go from Sister White, you can go to God. We will agree with that. If they had put forth effort, the design has already been given to them, and the design maybe we would call the methodology, the rules that they're supposed to be doing, the publishing of the books, James White coming out of full-time secular employment and focusing upon the publishing work, then the creation of the chart. This was all designed by God. What we want to remember is the design of the publishing work was when in 48? What kind of time period in 48? I think we've got a hard date. November the 18th, you had a vision on that. But when are they already considering this? When did we see that they were already considering this? So we had a date for February. Loughborough mentions February. Now I don't know if it's literally February, but we'll go with at least the spring. In the spring of 48, they already are discussing plans on how to give the third angel's message. They don't know how to do that. Now in that discussion, it's not just a private discussion, they start talking to people. How do we know they're talking to people? My brother? How do we know they're talking to people in the spring of 48?
Okay, the reason why I believe that we were talking to people is the response when we read that part.
Bit louder.
When we read the work of Loughborough, it says they are getting ready to present the message of the season, and then our people were responding to them that it is too late. You should not be doing that because Armageddon is coming on.
So
We were already having discussions with people.
So we see that there are people who are fighting back against them, saying the Battle of Armageddon has come, it's too late. So we know they're already talking to people, but their plans or the design hasn't been thought out properly. So Ellen White's going to come now and tell them how to do this work. So that's all I want to say about 74. Now I want to come to 18 MR, begin at page 10, paragraph 1. We're going to go here because we're going to see that it's exactly the same statement. Before we read, what I want to try to show or demonstrate is something that Brother Rogers mentioned at the very beginning of this portion of the study, that we can take this history here, which we've got number 1, it's not 44, I'm saying it's 63, I've given my reasons for that. If you don't accept that it's 63, I want us to at least agree, we should all be able to agree, that it was soon after 44, long before 88. That's when Christ was going to wrap up the work. So it's all going to be in one generation. So we know that, we've got Spirit of Prophecy quotes to prove that. I'm suggesting this date 63, and as I said, I've given the reasons for that. When you go to higher medicine, so think higher medicine, 63. There's no proof for that, as far as I've found, that we could do that, but I've given you the logic of that. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that? Okay, so let's read. I saw some in Zion were languishing. They were dormant and unbelieving. I asked the angel if Zion should languish. Said the angel, she is rising, never to fall again. God has stretched out his hand the second time to recover the remnant of his people. I saw that some who meet together at the conference at Oswego and vicinity, which means nearby, were not right. They do not partake of the spirit of the lovely Jesus. They have not the vital godliness, and unless they soon partake of the spirit of Jesus and have their hearts sanctified by the truth they profess to believe, they will be purged out of the camp of Israel. So are we reasonably happy that, just to check something else, that's a fair representation of what we just read from early writings? She's rising in power, never to fall again. God has stretched out his hand the second time to recover the remnant of his people. Are we okay with that? The title of this is a vision given in Oswego, New York, and the date is 1850. I don't have the month. What I'd have to do is go back to the unpublished writings, find out when MS5 was put together. Hopefully it would give us the date. I don't know if anybody can do that during this class. If you can't, don't worry, I'll try and find it afterwards. So I want to go to paragraph 2 now. I saw that there needed to be a searching of heart among them. Said the angel, thou art upon the enchanted ground. Dost thou not see it? Awake and arise, and put on the strength of the Lord. The powers of darkness are rising. Art thou rising? Is it not getting the victory over thee? What's that saying? What is the angel saying? Have a quick read. What is the angel saying? Do you know where we are? Do you want to know where we are? Okay, we're in 18 MR, page 10. 18 MR, page 10. What we've read is, we read early writing 74, when it said, familiar passage, the Lord, or God had stretched out his hand the Lord showed me that he had stretched out his hand the second time to recover God's people. So it's the stretching out of his hand and the recovering. That's given in 1850, September the 23rd. It's a familiar passage. And now I've gone to another passage, one that we don't normally go to, 18 MR, page 10. And it says in the first paragraph, God has stretched out his hand the second time to recover the remnant of his people. So that's the connection. Paragraph 2, what's the angel saying? My brother, what's the angel saying to them?
The angel is seeing the condition of the people
And we see that they are not ready to rise, and the spirit that rise because the powers of the darkness are also rising over them.
My brother at the back.
What I'm saying is, the powers of darkness are rising, and if the people of God will also rise, darkness is going to cover them up.
Okay, so we see we see the powers of darkness rising, and they said you need to rise as well at the same time. I want to use a different word from rising. It says the powers of darkness are rising. Now, I want to ask you, what word do we want to use instead of rising? So I want to know I want to see if you're thinking along the same lines that I'm thinking. So, what word would you use instead of rising? I'll go with Sister Emma first. The powers of darkness are rising. If I ask this question tomorrow, I know I'd get the right answer if I asked Brother Manjit straight away. So she knows the clue now.
Consolidating the power.
Just one word. Rising. You said it. Consolidating. Okay. My brother, where is that word found? Consolidating.
I can see it in Daniel.
It's a Spirit of Prophecy quote.
The points.
No, I want to know the reference. Where do we find powers of... She didn't say the powers of darkness, I think she said the powers of evil are consolidating. If you don't know, you don't know. Okay. My brother?
Education 220.
Education 228?
90.
Most people are going to go to 90, page 11. Is it called For the Coming of the King? I think the section title. So she mentions there the consolidating. Sorry?
Crisis.
That's the small subsection. I think that the main title is For the Coming of the King. I think we discussed that already. Is that right?
Yeah.
For the Coming of the King? And just read the passage. It's page 11.
Paragraph 2.
So it's 11.9t, 11.2. 90, not 90, the number. Read.
The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final movement will be rapid one.
Okay, so I'm not trying to read the original intent, although I think we could. What application do we make for that? When did that happen? When were the agencies of evil consolidating and combining, the combining and consolidation of the agencies of evil, ready for the, would it say the final or the last conflict? Or am I reading? Oh, the final movement's really rapid one. When is that happening, my brother? When do we say?
9/11.
So we say 9/11. Everybody happy with 9/11? Did you, or before? My sister? Or maybe you're not familiar with it, I don't know. Before 9/11. Sister Joy? 9/11 or a little bit further. So you'd begin it at 9/11. Your brother?
I would say 9/11.
Anyone else? So one person has said before, and most people are saying at 9/11. Any other thoughts? The thought?
How we apply the movement to
Yeah, I'm not trying to go for original intent. I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it. I'm just saying, where do we normally place this thing? So we normally place it at 9/11. Any thoughts, Sister Emma?
You could say that as well.
Why?
Because of what happens at the end.
Okay, so you could make an argument that it's before, but certainly by 9/11. So I'm not trying to create a line here, but all I am saying is, if we were to agree that 1850 is 2018. If we're okay with that connection, and this is in 1850, it says we were already on enchanted ground. That must mean that the enchanted ground that we must be on enchanted ground. That's the point I want us to make. I want us to see. If we were to make that idea that the powers of darkness are rising, that means they've already begun to rise. Wherever we want to mark 9/11, I don't know where we'd mark that. Maybe we'd mark it 1844. Not trying to be specific about that, but I want us to see that we're on enchanted ground. What happens when you are on enchanted ground if you've read Pilgrim's Progress?
If you slept on the enchanted ground, you are mostly likely to be taken away by the enchantment there. So most likely you slept.
So when you go on enchanted ground, it makes you sleepy. It has this effect upon you. There's an atmosphere that makes you sleep. And if you sleep, the instruction is you will never wake up. So if we were to connect sleep with enchanted ground and the fact that they're arising, or we could suggest waking up, I think we can see the connection between 9/11. We all went to sleep. And if we just add this thought into it, the reason we go to sleep, the reason we have a tarrying time, 9/11, is because it can't be anything good. We're on enchanted ground and things have gone wrong. If we can just go with that. So we're supposed to awake and arise. And if you don't, the powers of darkness are going to have a victory over us. Okay, so let's go to paragraph 3. I was pointed back to the children of Israel in Egypt. I saw that when God worked through Moses before Pharaoh, the magicians came up and said they could do the same, that they could work the same miracles. I saw that the same work was going on now on the earth, that the magicians carried on I saw that the same work was going on now on the earth that the magicians carried on anciently. What the magicians did before, the same thing is happening now. The signs and mighty wonders of the devil have increased within a few months tenfold and have been on the increase and spread until Israel is constantly rising with the message and growing in grace and in the knowledge of the truth. The powers of darkness will get the victory over them. Brother Andrew? What's she talking about here? She's going back to Egypt. She's going back to the story of Moses when he fights with Jannes and Jambres. What's she talking about?
I think she's making a present application.
Okay, so she's using a parable, repeating in large, taking one history, that line, and bringing it now. Okay? And what's the present history?
Right.
What is the present history? She's gone from the past, taking the story of Moses, and saying, that's what's happening now. Tell me what's happening now. In 1850, where she's had this vision. Or in this history, I don't want to say in 1850.
Yeah, I believe the same thing is happening. It was happening in 1850 because based on the quote that we read from John Crawford, he was talking of people engaged in spiritualism.
List them out for me.
I can't remember.
Sorry?
I don't remember it.
Okay, you can't remember the 3 things? Okay, give me a bit more information.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. My brother? Mm-hmm.
Actually, what I'm seeing here at this point is she's trying to make the application of what took place during the in that time period when she's living in 1850.
Okay.
And
So now, on top of that, you are saying, maybe you repeat your questions again.
Tell me what the application is. Tell me what's going on.
It is just the work of Satan and the demons was increasing in that time period.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking the question is because we've already studied this, and so I'm asking how much of what we've studied do we remember, and I want to see that we can tie in this new Spirit of Prophecy quote to what we've already seen. That's what I want us to do, because when we did it before, it was Loughborough. Now we've got Spirit of Prophecy, and Loughborough is not an inspired statement. Now we have an inspired statement. So I want us to see if we can tie in what we've already read. So it's what do we remember about what we've studied? That's why I'm asking the question. Can you give any more?
I cannot go any further anyway, but according to what we study on Loughborough messages, we saw that the work of opposition, like those ones who are giving a different message concerning the message that was supposed to be given, we saw there are two groups of people. Others who are opposing the work.
So it's not that. So I'll ask someone else. So, do you remember?
I just want to pick from where I read that there was this issue of spiritualism rising, and also the consolidating of the nations. I see it as the revolutionary wars.
So list the three things that we spoke of.
The other one is the publishing of the three angels' message.
So it's the third angel's message, that internal work.
And then the revolutionary wars.
The revolutionary wars. What does Loughborough call it? Okay, so the revolutionary wars, and the third one?
Spiritualism.
Do you remember what he calls that? Okay, so we've got the three things. There's the third angel's message, there's the revolutionary wars, and there's, you said, spiritualism. Okay, we have one more piece of information. Okay, my brother?
What I can say here in this point is comparing what the magicians in Egypt were doing, the miracle work they were working, where the work was happening from around 1848 to 1850. But he's working this. Okay, we had made a connection. Yeah, we had made a connection of this with the 1850. So, but
no, we didn't make it with 1850.
First paragraph.
No, now, but before. I'm asking time before.
Okay. So before, what we can see here is what was taking place when we read from Loughborough's book. There are three things that have already been mentioned. I will not now mention that, but I'm trying to see the opposition from those who are saying that these people were having the sending message late, the opposition that Moses was meeting here from the magicians.
I want the year. You kind of gave it, but I wanted it firm. Brother Wilson. It's 1848. We want to remember it's 1848. The three things are happening. Third angel's message, spiritualism, and the revolutionary wars. How does he talk about the spiritualism and the revolutionary wars? What words does he use?
He used the word saying that the spirits of devils which are gathering the nation, the battle of the great day the battle of the great day of the Lord, and then they call it the manifestation of modern spiritualism.
So he uses the word the moral world and the political world. So we've got that. We've got 1848. So we know everybody sees that's what's happening, and then now we've got a vision that Ellen White's going to give. So I want us to remember this is connecting 1848 with 1850. I want to drop down to 11.3 now. Skips a few paragraphs. 11.3. Drop down the whole page. God's people are rising, said the angel, never to fall again. Be careful, said the angel, lest the branches be cut off and others are raised up in their stead. What Bible passage is this alluding to? Where it talks about the branches are going to be cut off and others are raised up in their stead. Sorry? Romans 11:17. Anyone else? John 15. So if you find the passage in John 15, I was thinking about, you said 11:18? 17. It's 11:17?
Yeah.
Can you read that?
It says, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, what graft in among them, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree.
And I'm not familiar with John 15.
It's a branch. We know that fear and not faith be taken away.
Sorry?
That is 15 verse 2.
15:2.
Every branch in me that beareth not fruit is taken away.
Good, I like that. Okay, so we've got two Bible references that we can go to that allude to this. I saw that some would bear fruit and work to the glory of God. I saw we must keep close to Jesus and fast and pray if we could not get the victory over the powers of darkness. Then I saw that Brother Gorslin had wounded and torn the hearts of God's people. I saw he had been stubborn and rebellious. Unless he changed his course entirely, the church should disfellowship him, for he has been a dead weight to the church. What's that showing you? If Brother Gorstin's causing this much trouble, what does he say for them to do? So what's that teaching you? Sorry? Already there's a high level of organisation that you can be disfellowshipped from a church. She actually calls it the church. So by 1850, the organisation has matured. It's already there. I like that thought. And then 18.4. So 18.4 is the paragraph that I wanted us to see, because I think this is going to prove the point that we're trying to demonstrate, that this timeline is short. It's not a long timeline. Said the angel, Jesus has nearly finished his work in the sanctuary. So he's been going for 6 years, 7 years, depending on how you count, 44 to 50, and she says he's almost finished his work in the sanctuary. It is no time to be stupid now. A quick work will the Lord do upon the earth. The 4 angels will soon let go the 4 winds. Said the angel, beware how thou treadest enchanted ground all around the east and the west, north and south. If Satan can get thee to slumber now, he will be sure of his prey. So we'll stop there. That's the end of the first portion where the angel speaks. So what's he saying there? Brother Paul, what's he saying? There's lots of things he's saying. Just tell us some of the things you can see.
So in the first sentence, he says that Christ almost finished his work in the sanctuary. That there's no time.
Let's do that bit first. He's almost finished his work. What does that mean? What do you read into that? That he's almost finished his work in the sanctuary?
I think I can go with the language of investigative judgment for the dead, and it's if you understand that the work of the investigative judgment begins with the dead and with the part of the living. So, and I don't know which one is referring that. Is it the dead or to the part of the living?
Okay, so that's what my question is. What are you reading into that?
Sure. I really like this, but I don't understand what to call it.
Well, I think you do understand, because you've already seen something about the dead and something about the living. Not seen, it's not there to see, but you're assuming. So, if I interpret what you said, you tell me if I'm misunderstanding. That in 1850, it looks like that the judgment of the dead is almost finished. Therefore, we must be coming in out of the judgment of the living. Is that what you're suggesting? Anyone else? Brother Wilson?
Taking that portion that Jesus nearly finished his work in the sanctuary, then if I take the same phrase in the book of early writings that says that Christ in the heavenly sanctuary, I think if Christ is the heavenly sanctuary, that means the probation is still open, and what probation means testing. So if you say that Jesus nearly finished his work, I think that the testing process is about to end.
So the testing process is about to end. My brother?
And I would see that if that's nearly work in the sanctuary.
Sorry, could you say that?
Jesus is nearly finished his work, and it's connected with the 4 winds that are getting close. Whereby the 4 winds will be like a punishment at the end of the road. I like connecting this one with the close of possession, whereby it's about to come out.
Okay.
I was trying to connect it with Isaiah's vision, Isaiah chapter 6, where he sees a vision in heaven and the door is creaking, and he sees the smoke, which is a significance that the one who is in there when he sees the door creaking is about to come out. And so he looks at his condition and he sees himself unworthy. And before the one who is in comes out, he is cleansed. So it was like a significance to these people that his work is almost over and our judgment is about to begin as the living, so we should amend our character.
Anyone else?
How I'm reading this, so that Jesus has nearly finished his work in the sanctuary. So the first question to come in that is, what is Jesus doing? What is Jesus working in the sanctuary? And now that point, Jesus is in the most holy place. So it's doing the interceding work. So if you say it's coming out, it simply means that his second coming is nearly approached. So I'm reading like the second coming of Christ is almost there.
So that's the primary thing I wanted us to see, that in 1850, the second coming is soon. I'm not sure if we see the significance of the loud cry, 1850, now their focus is being redirected to do the finishing work, which is to gather the scattered people, the remnant of Israel. So there must have been some kind of change from 44 to 50 and then 50 onward. And in connection to that, she's saying his work is almost finished. Then she says he's going to do a quick work upon the earth. And then it says the 4 angels will soon let go the 4 winds. So the 4 winds are taken from where? This is Revelation 7. Could go, where else could we go? Ezekiel 37. So if you're going to do Ezekiel 37, then we're going to have to totally reapply Ezekiel 37. It won't be the way we do that, would it? It wouldn't be the way we would consider it. Because you're going to put the four winds before 1850, when the enchanted ground began, if you're going to do that. And she's putting it, it's not even started yet. I didn't mean that to make you sound that what you said it was wrong. I'm just showing you, just suggesting that when you take her passages and we start applying things, you can see how they would be applied differently. It's not in the same way that we do it.
So if she says the four angels will soon let go of the four winds, so meaning they've been holding them. So I'm understanding we discuss about the 1848, the revolutionary wars in Europe, and people are saying here is Armageddon. I think a lot of people will say then it ends, and people say how is it ended? So I'm taking that as God is holding those winds for our work to be done. So I think in that history, when we'll be dealing, because in our history when you make an application you want to deal with the four winds as Islam. So I don't think in that history, the four winds will have if we will have come a second advent in 63, the four winds will have been fulfilled by a different symbol rather than Islam.
Just one moment. Luke 21, we've got earth twice. We're suggesting, hopefully we're on the same page, that this one is what? This is 1840. And then if we went to Revelation 11:18, and then we go to Luke 26, I don't know how easy it is to get those verses and to apply them in a really hard and firm way, but we see that 1848, the nations have been restrained, not the beginning of Armageddon. There's a restraining of it, and that the four winds are about to get a lot worse. So there's an inference here about political strife, and that would be on top of our understanding of verse 26, which would be the plagues, or this, I don't know what you call it, supernatural or natural disasters above and beyond political strife. So the four winds here are being used in a totally different way that we would use them. And if we were to do that, when it comes to the third woe, we'd have to be thinking about that in a different way as well. Unless something's about to happen with Egypt in the Middle East, which I don't think we have any visibility of in this time period.
I think for me I would connect that with Revelation 9 verse 15. He's talking about the four angels. But we can easily note the second act of the Disgrace of Nations in 1850.
So we can go to the four angels and go to Revelation 9
verse 15
and make an application there. 9:15. Said the angel, beware how thou treadest enchanted ground all around the east, north, south and west. So I read that. I saw that some in Israel had been half starved for food, and when the present truth was presented to them, they ate it with thankfulness and gratitude like half starved children. What is that? What kind of imagery does that portray to you? I saw that some in Israel had been half starved for food, and when the present truth was presented to them, they ate it with thankfulness and gratitude like half starved children. So in 1850, the loud cries come in, and these people have been starved for food. What's the food? Third angel, the present truth. So when the present truth is given to them, how did they react to it? with thankfulness, they just gobble it up like this is exactly what they always wanted. And what do we normally expect the reaction to be? When we say to the church, you're dead, we don't normally use the word starving, but sometimes we might do. What action do we expect? What action do we get? What action do we get? Rejection and resistance. Why would we get rejection and resistance? Why would we get that? Let me suggest something. I saw that it was a shame. No, not that one. I saw that it was wrong for any to refer to the scattering for examples to govern us now in the gathering. For if God should do no more for us now than he did then, Israel would never be gathered. So that's my suggestion. Why did we have so much problem when people didn't want to eat what food we were giving them? Because there's a scattering. And we often don't call it scattering, we call it a hiding. But now, if you begin to do that work, you're going to get a different reaction. That's what we should expect to see, a different reaction. Because that was in the scattering, we can't look for examples then. Said the angel, can ye stand in the battle in the day of the Lord? Ye need to be washed and live in the newness of life. Then I saw that those whose hands are now engaged in making up the breach are standing in the gaps, but that have formerly, since 1844, broken the commandments of God, and have so far followed the Pope as to keep the first day of the seventh, would have to go... The first day, instead of the seventh, would have to go down into the water and be baptized in the faith of the shut door and keeping the commandments of God, and in the faith of Jesus, who is coming to sit on the throne of his father David and to redeem Israel. What does all that mean? Someone simplify that. Beginning from, then I saw that those whose hands are now engaged in making up the breach and are standing in the gaps, but have formerly, since 1844, broken the commandments of God, and have so far followed the Pope as to keep the first day of the seventh, would now have to go down into the water and be baptized in the faith out of the shut door, and keeping the commandments of God, and in the faith of Jesus, who is coming on the throne of his father David to redeem Israel. Who wants to have a go? The brother?
What I'm saying is that now people who are advocating that age message, but back then they are broken the commandment. So for them to continue doing that, they need to get baptized. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's like a group of other people who have not accepted to keep the Sabbath, and they are now willing to go out to the third annual message. So this is why they say these people who have rejected the fourth commandment, see the king for the soul, and who are now engaged in making the breach because the law of God has been broken. Instead of going forward with the third annual message, they need to be baptized in order for them to do the work.
Okay, so we're in 1850, and there are some people who are now engaged in making up the breach. What does making up the breach mean? Sorry? Repairing. So restore it means to repair the breach, repair the break, and are standing in the gaps, but that have formerly, since 44, broken the commandments of God, and have so far followed the Pope as to keep the first day instead of the seventh. So these people who are now engaged in God's work, they're on God's side, They've refused to keep Sabbath. They were keeping the first day. Were these good people or bad people? Good. Brother Robert, are they good people or bad people? Good.
I can say they were bad people until they received this message now. Then they started also coming back. And we are advocating for that.
Okay, so you think they've been bad all of this time? You think they've been good? Tell us why you think they've been good people, even though they've rejected the Sabbath. I'm going to guess it depends on what our definition of good and bad is, by the way. So I've got in my mind the definition of what good or bad is.
Because I can't see anything that's making them bad, apart from the fact that they're not keeping the Sabbath.
My brother?
You say, are they good or bad?
Yeah.
Okay. I can say they're good. And the reason why they're good here is that they were ignorantly rejecting the message. And after realizing their problem, they now follow the message and they accepted it.
So I want to suggest that they're part of the movement. These are people who have, in some shape or form, been part of the movement, but they have been following the Pope. They've been keeping Sunday, not Sabbath. And now they're coming to a place where they realize the errors of their way. And now they have to be baptized. So they've seen things have been wrong in their experience, and they have to be baptized, and we're in 1850. I don't know if this goes back to those ministers that Loughborough was speaking about, who hadn't heard of the third angel, who we were suggesting were bad people. So I don't know if you're willing to go back and maybe readjust your thinking, because it sounds like the same group of people, those who were part of the Advent movement, hadn't been keeping the Sabbath like Ellen White had, but they were different to the first day Adventists. That's what I'm seeing here, that these are good people. And I also want to see that they need to be baptized in the faith of the shut door and the keeping of the commandments, and in the faith of Jesus, who is coming to sit on the throne of his father David. So you need to be baptized into two things: into the shut door message, and you also need to be baptized into the commandments of God. What is the shut door message? What's the commandments of God message then?
Fasting.
To me, the commandments of God, I would suggest that was the third angel's message, because that's everyone's keeping 9 now. They're going to keep the 10th. So I would lean that the commandments of God is the third angel's message. So what is the shut door?
Fasting.
The first angel's message. The message of judgment. Okay, so the reason I'm asking that is, let's make an application if we're able to. What's the commandments of God in 2018? We're here in 1850. If we're going to make 2018, what's the commandments of God?
2 tables.
2 tables. What are we telling people?
The commandment of God would be a present truth in 2018.
Would be
a present truth in 2018.
Yeah, so what is that present truth? What is our present truth? What are we saying? Time setting. What's the shut door? There was a shut door in the past. You need to believe that there was a shut door October 22nd, 1844. If you don't believe that, you can't be part of this movement. 2014? Anybody come up with a different answer? Okay? Different answer or?
Okay, according to me, the commandments of God is the foundation message that was established by 2014.
The foundational message that was established by 2014. So we make a connection. The church has been bypassed in 2014. Is that what you mean?
The shut door.
Oh, okay, so the shut door. So what's the application?
The church has been bypassed.
When? Because it's October 22nd, 1844, we know that. You don't want to venture? We've only got a couple of dates. 89, 9/11, 2014, 96. Why 2014?
Because let's think about it.
Okay, so let's close with prayer. Heavenly Father, we want to give you praise and thanks for your goodness. We ask and pray that you would guide, direct and bless us. Help us, Lord, to have clarity on how to take these Spirit of Prophecy quotes, see what they meant in their original settings, and see what truth we can glean for them for our own admonition and our own comfort. We ask and pray for this blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.